Hot topic here on Friday. I'm Robert. He's Brooks in for Jason Davis. And we're going to talk about college soccer, American collegiate sports in a huge time of upheaval and extreme change. And the soccer landscape is no different, but in slightly different ways, as a goal to alleviate match compression of a cramped 12-week fall NCAA season. Some of the leading clubs and leagues in college soccer are looking to expand into more of a year-round model. And Brooks, you are a professional American soccer scout, and you've got a lot of contacts at the youth and the collegiate levels. So I referenced a little bit from a Sportico article talking about how some college leaders were trying to get this instilled for 25-26. That's not going to happen, but you're saying that there's definitely a lot of momentum behind this idea.
Yeah, there's I don't want to say momentum is maybe the word to use. It's past the idea process. It's trying to figure out who wants to be involved and what's right. And there was this pilot program. There's supposed to be 32 teams in it. It was going to be the Big Ten and the ACC, and then you're going to add probably 6 or 7 teams outside of those conferences. So maybe possibly an Akron, a Georgetown, some Big East sides, maybe, some of the Conference USA, maybe a team from here or there. It's a smaller school. Has a bigger time soccer program. It lost some edge. The ACC and the presidents and ADs kind of backed out, and they're like, we're not ready to start this next fall. We need to give this some more time. You've got U.S. Soccer working with this because the pilot program was U.S. Soccer was going to help fund this for the 32 teams. They were going to play, I believe, the College Cup, the Final Four at the new U.S. Soccer training complex in Atlanta. Like that was the vision to do this. It's a little bit of a mess. There's a few people spearheading the idea, and they're not including the smaller colleges, which they're not very happy with the smaller programs. Everyone wants to be involved. And the thing is, how do you figure this out? There's 212 men's soccer programs. In reality, if they switch 2 semesters, are all 212 going to be able to go? Probably not. You're going to either bump down a division. Schools may be starting to get rid of their athletic programs. We've seen, St. Francis University in the Northeast, they've moved from D1 to D3. You had a Division II program called Art U out in California, which is a liberal arts school. They totally abolished all of their athletic programs. So as football and basketball drive this conversation, you're going to see a lot of things probably this summertime happen with teams moving up and down and whatnot. And then, college soccer is just trying to figure out where do we fit in this equation of the pyramid within soccer in American soccer in here. If you really look at it, the big time programs and even some of the mid-major programs probably have better training facilities and pitches than most USL clubs. If we really want to be upfront with it. And if you look at the MLS Next Pro side of it, not a lot of, and from what I've heard through the grapevine, not all MLS clubs want to have a second team. They're forced to have it. There's 3 currently that don't have a second team. That'd be San Diego, DC United, and Montreal. The Canadian programs, the MLS squads, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, did actually go to the league and say, hey, the travel costs are killing us. Can we be a part of the CPL? Because you got it with the visas and going over the border and everything. So there's this movement of where does college soccer fit? And college soccer could be that U23 league where, maybe you're the Columbus Crew and you work with Ohio State and Dayton and you send your players there. And, there's a development side there where you're playing the 2 semesters and, and there's always going to be the programs like Union and Galaxy and whatnot that will have their second teams. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see how this all intertwines and whatnot, because there are good college coaches. You have former pro players like Brian Mason off Ohio State, Kyle Beckerman at Utah Valley that, like the college space. They like working with those players. And, Todd Yeagley at IU does, Russell Payne at Northwestern, here Shaka Daly and Damon Rensing at Michigan and Michigan State. So college soccer is part of the development pathway. It is a good, safe space for players that aren't ready to make the pro jump and want to continue with education. The question is, how's intertwined and how does U.S. soccer help? And then with the NIL stuff as well that's happening with basketball and football and the athletic departments, how do they see soccer fitting in, and do people spin off and whatnot? So it's a very confusing time right now. And could it happen in 2 semesters? I think it could, but it could also pivot the other direction and say we give up because the presidents and ADs don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, we're not concerned. We're only concerned about football and the money-making sports. So it's interesting.
One of the notable things about the change here is, obviously there's been background of college soccer wanting to change from this 12-week for multiple decades, from what I understand.
Yes.
But this is the first time, or the first public acknowledgement that U.S. soccer wants to get involved. And in part of this press release, they state that they're committed to supporting the long-term sustainability of the men's and women's college soccer. So there is a federation involvement here. And but I wanted to think that with promotion and relegation, in the works, and maybe there being an avenue for talent, maybe going to lower leagues teams rather than college. But the foundation of the American soccer, production line, or, talent line is, youth soccer gets encouraged to go to travel teams. Travel teams are encouraged to go to college.
Yep.
And in Seoul, a lot of the time when college players, those are the most developed, other than the academy players, which, there's a little bit of crossover there. But then most of the time, college players, where do they go from there? If they've gone all 4 years, they're a little bit too old to start their pro career. And then also maybe, they haven't been getting developed year round. So they maybe aren't as polished of a 22-year-old as some. Yep. And then also you've sent them to 4 years of college. They are college educated people. They have other vocations they can go into rather than going to USL or a MLS Next Pro team making $30,000 a year. I know from my USL 2 experience, there has been the best player for Oakland County FC, Kevin Buka. He was also, my favorite player, one of the best talented players I've seen in the local leagues, but He was a valedictorian of University of Michigan.
Yeah.
So joining a team for, 5 figures isn't necessarily as appealing. So all that development possibly is going away. And there's a lot of players are lost to that. Right. So any sort of a change to kind of integrate college within it. Cause like you said, there's infrastructure already. There's already a community attachments to these. I feel like I've often wondered, being in the summer soccer world, what would it take for college to just create their own summer leagues if the rules and everything were adjusted for that to happen? Why not? Because they already have way more than the summer leagues that are just starting from scratch for the most part. They already have facilities and all this background stuff. So for this plan of that's being talked about, to have, 15 ACC teams, 11 Big Ten teams, and then a handful of other big schools such as West Virginia, Oregon State, San Diego State, South Carolina, Kentucky, and UCF.
Yep.
So if this goes along, this would maybe become more of a minor league and become part of would this become part of more of a world paralleling talent development if this isn't a locked in 12 game, 1 season a year? That doesn't seem, I don't know if anyone argues that is the ideal way to develop a player, is to do it as the current college structure is. So if we're going to utilize all the infrastructure and coaching and money, this seems like a more productive way to do it if this ends up happening, developing the college thing out into a more of a stretched out year.
Yeah. And it's interesting. One thing I didn't know too is when I've talked to some college coaches, this pilot program of 32 teams, it wasn't never just going to be 32. It was kind of going to be like NCAA football. You have FBS and then FCS, where you hang around the FBS long enough and you win and you get the money and the funds to move up to Division I, FCS. That was the game plan too. It was we weren't going to always not include the smaller schools, but the ones that were ready to make the jump to do the 2 semester, that had the funding, to do this, the athletic training staff and everything, that can make the jump to do this pilot program, so we're never going to rule out everyone completely. But it's interesting, how, the talk too is, college soccer really needs to make their conferences more regional. One thing to note before we're done here is, Washington came over here in the fall and played Michigan and Michigan State, like, on a long weekend. And with that, like Washington, they flew in Thursday night, played Friday, slept all day Friday, played Friday night against Michigan State, stayed in a hotel, played in Ann Arbor on Monday. And it's not feasible for a college soccer program to do that. So regionalizing, much like I think lower division pro soccer should do to cut down travel costs, is an extremely important thing. If they regionalize and they get this right and they do a 2-semester program and then everyone across the country meets in a tournament after the season's done, then that makes sense. But cost, getting U.S. soccer involved is extremely important in my opinion, because they are part of the bigger people that can help solve this issue and keep college soccer relevant.
Thank you, Brooks, for joining us today. I'm really excited to see where this goes, because it would be such a waste to let all of this infrastructure and investment and effort really from the youth ranks on up and then utilize what is already here in American soccer. It'd be great to see that utilized to the most. Big thanks, Luke Zagorski, Big Z, getting in on the MK Ultra memberships. Took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to tell everyone to subscribe to the channel, but you can also become a member now. Thank you to the handful of new members as we start this new era of the channel. Thank you so much to Luke, Mike, and the others who have taken the leap to support this program. Thank you to Cesar Hernandez for joining. Thank you to Mitch Berukowitz from Westchester SC for giving me a couple minutes at the game this week. We played that earlier in the show. You can also find us as a podcast. Look on your favorite audio platform. Look up Morning Kickaround to get us in your earbuds as a podcast. You can follow along on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Thank you, Brooks Laimbeer, for joining us, pro soccer scout with the Soccer Syndicate, and also key contributor to We Are Soccer YouTube channel. You're in the studio now. Tell the MK Ultras where they can find your content.
Yeah, so we're on YouTube. We have a Facebook group, private and public. We are Soccer Network, and we have a private Facebook group. We have X. We do the TikTok and Twitch and whatnot. But yeah, every Sunday night we have a show. Craig and I have been doing Wednesday nights as well. We cut up content. We do interviews. We just had one with El Farolitos head coach Santiago Lopez. So that's an interesting one, how the club started and whatnot. So we interview, the domestic soccer people that are influential in the game around the country. So we're on the YouTube. If you guys want to come over and watch, be more than welcome to, with Craig, Nate, and I, and Danny Price as well. So, but Robert, thank you for having me on, man. I love watching the show you and Jason do, and you're doing a great job for American soccer, both of you guys.
All right. Thank you, Brooks. I appreciate you coming on. Jason should be back next week. Thank you to producer Jenny for pushing the buttons for us. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for listeners. Thank you, members, and plenty of soccer before we join you again on Monday morning. So until then, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.